Welcome back to Apsida Insights and our first episode of 2025. After a really great response to the last podcast we did with Jamie, Ben and myself, where we took a closer look into the business, a little more personal take on things, we've decided that first episode of 2025 is going to be of the same ilk. This time talking about the launch of our London office, joined by our newest member to the UK team, our Senior Director, Harry Williams, and we'll be getting into his background, the plans for the London office, and the really exciting things to come following that. So let's get into it. Harry, long time coming. It certainly feels like that, doesn't it?
It does.
Really, really great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Excited to dive into today.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's going to go,
No.
left, right, up, down, but let's see.
Absolutely.
I'd love to kick off with really you telling us why you felt Apsida's vision, culture, business as a whole was attractive to you, and what stood out to you, and why you think it felt like it made sense to join at this point.
Yeah, I think there's a big personal element to it and a big professional element to it as well. Like, there's been a lot of podcasts on the current climate and how things are going for agencies, both in life sciences and externally to that. We all know about the COVID boom. I think everyone felt the positive effects of that professionally, of course. But of course, we've been in the game for longer than that. And I do feel I turned 30 a couple of years ago, had my first baby. And there was a bit of a moment in time where it was like, okay, what's next? What does the future look like? What do I want to do? And I think what I love the most is connecting with the life science community and actually going back to my roots of sales, because inevitably that's what recruitment is. And to be able to do that, I think being in that leaner setup, surrounded by like-minded individuals, people that I know, people that I trust, people that I want to work around, who have clearly got a business proposition and track record that's, well, frankly, incredible. Yes, naturally, as we'll get to in today's podcast, of course, I knew about the business. You know, I know you guys better than just the brand and just what LinkedIn might tell you. But it's essentially now come down to what skills have I got, what have I learned that can then be implemented as part of a wider group, but still remain something that I can carve up myself and I can make my own. And that's why we're here in London today. That's why you're up here with me. And I'm looking forward to sharing more insights into what the future looks like. But I think for sure why I joined is to add true value and a different set of skills and a different perspective, but to a business that is actually extremely like-minded and very relevant.
Yeah, I think that's super important. If I use our previous experiences, so a lot of the business, the people within the business, we've worked with each other for many years. We know each other outside of work, and I think that's really created an environment and a culture that's super collaborative.
Yeah.
So I think when the opportunity came up for you to potentially join the business, it was a bit of a no-brainer, right? I think touching on what you mentioned about adding a different perspective, that was what was key for us. I think we're always looking at ways to grow, build, develop into new areas, and the experiences that you've got across the various businesses that you've worked in brings a lot to the table, which is awesome. It's a really pivotal time for us as a business. I think you touched on like the market. There's lots of new recruitment businesses popping up. There's of course the staples within the industry as well. You work for potentially a couple of them. The market over the last 12 months, I think, has caused a lot of change in the space. I think reflecting on our experiences, we've had to adapt a lot for sure. But you still wanted to take the plunge and work with us even in that period of, I'm not going to say uncertainty, but change.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what's your vision for the office, and sort of where do you see it going?
I think to your point, firstly, you've mentioned a real strength of Apsida, which is bringing in individuals that you've worked with, who understand the way they work, and importantly, they understand the way you work. Now, fast forward a number of years now, it's exactly the same situation for you and I, and me and Ben, and me and Jamie, and the rest of the group, who, of course, I was privy to previously as well. That relates to a lot. If you look at sports teams, massive billion-dollar tech companies, like that situation of creating a culture and creating hopefully what will be an A-team growth business is by doing it with people that you trust and that do bring a different set of skills. And that's what we want to do here in London. We want to be on the same page in terms of our morals, how we go about things, honesty. But what we don't want is a 2.0 to the Surrey office, which is, of course, where you and the majority of the team based. So we have Boston, we have Surrey, and now we've got London. Obviously, it's a complete mecca for recruitment, life science recruitment. As you say, the landscape's changed a lot. There's some uber successful large businesses out there. There's one-man bands. There's mid-sized boutiques. And Apsida have, I think, got a bit of a blend of it. You're not the new guys. You're certainly not the staples and the individuals and the companies that have been around since the early 2000s, if not beyond. But with a lot of the ongoing turbulence recently, Apsida stayed very strong, and it was around just before that COVID era. So it was set up not as a COVID backlash or a COVID move, or post-COVID where things have got challenging, and it was maybe set up in haste. So the strategy's there. The business is proven. The leadership team's strong. Second layer, third layer, fourth layer is strong. So I know you've done a podcast recently that's been released about 2024 and maybe slightly earlier than that as well. And from speaking to you guys more personally than professionally at the time, I think how you've navigated it has been exceptional. I think to be in the position that you're in, despite challenges, and to turn out what we've done and what we've achieved, if we look at the bottom line this year now, it's incredibly impressive. So for me to be a part of a business that has able to have stabilized and then actually kicked on probably in half year two gives me a little bit more leeway to get creative and have fun here.
Sure.
Because there's so much stability and so much strength in Surrey and in Boston. A new office, yes, but obviously way more stabilized than London. So I think my vision and how I see it is Apsida are going to be as one across the three offices. John, who runs Boston, of course, comes from the Surrey office, and me sat here in London. No, I haven't worked out of Surrey with you guys, but I've known Ben since I was about 12, and you and Jamie since you were very green, I think 18 years old. So we come from the same school, but London's a very different place to, I guess, suburbia, right? With the type of talent that we can attract, what clients potentially want to see from their external partners. That doesn't mean that they won't work with businesses that aren't in London, but it is a statement of intent. It is no different to having an office in a Boston or in New York or on the West Coast. It's a statement that you're in the right space. You're able to access the right people, access the right conferences. It's obviously a very, very diverse city. And I think that's where it comes to the plans in terms of hiring. And we've spoken about this a lot. And I think we're all on board that we want to create different avenues of offerings to our clients here. And of course, revenue streams for us as a business. So Apsida being founded more weighted towards vendor services, providers, CROs, CDMOs, consultancies, with some extremely talented individuals in pharma and biotech at certain phases, but maybe not be able to offer that the whole way through the drug development life cycle, is something that I've been fortunate enough to do for a long time now. It's obviously a huge part of the industry, if not the biggest part of the industry, because you're not going to have vendors or third parties if these sponsored businesses don't exist. And it takes a certain way of working, a certain style of recruitment, and it is different to probably what the majority of Apsida have done in the last 6 years. So I guess that's the crux of why I'm here, would be to extend our offering deeper into pharma and biotech specifically. I personally sit a little bit further down the drug development life cycle phase 3 and beyond, mainly working within that commercial remit, everything to do that's commercially related, in addition to market access, health economics. And there are lots of side pieces around that, which is where hiring will go into. It's going to be lent towards bigger relationships with larger corporations for a trusted partner with individuals that are going to be joining our business that can support that as we grow. But we can't, and we don't necessarily want to compete with huge competitors, because we can't. We know that, we understand that, but we are, and we have a gift that we have very seasoned, very, very competent recruiters that have dedicated most of their careers to their vertical market, or at least area, and we want to continue that. So even if we doubled in headcount, we're still going to be a leaner business than others, but it will be quality driven, it will be really tailored. And actually, with the turbulence that's been, I feel like now's a great opportunity to not, I guess, get a new identity, because we don't want to change the current identity, we want to add to the identity that we've got. So the hiring plans here in the vision for London is to essentially create relationships with different types of clients, offer different types of services that Apsida haven't traditionally been known for in the past. Doesn't mean they haven't done it, but it's not been their bread and butter. And also have the opportunity to attract seriously interesting talent from London. And again, I guess we'll get to hiring plans and who and why and what, but it's extremely opportunistic and it's really exciting. Really exciting.
The word opportunistic, that it came at sort of a time we didn't expect, but it was always in the plan. So I think if I cast my mind back to the days where we were in Ben's living room before we set up, and we were sort of chalking up the ideas on what the business is, what we want the brand to look like, where we want to expand into, the longer term vision, London was always there. It was just a case of when we initially started there, but really building an office around an individual to start with. It was a case of when rather than if. So yeah, opportunity is the word. And I think, touching on your point that you made around the identity, keeping the identity the same. I think, as I mentioned earlier, we've been really fortunate to hire people, and some of our senior leaders in the business now, we've known them for a long period of time. We've worked with them previously. It's the same with you. You knew Ben when you were 12, and you said Jamie and I when we were wet round the ears, just starting the job. So I think we felt extremely confident that the time was right.
Well, you've got to place your strengths, right? You've achieved what you've been able to achieve by doing that. And I admire the businesses that take bold and brave moves and it pays off. And I sympathize with the ones who don't, where it doesn't pay off. And I feel like this is a blend. It is a bold move in the current climate. There is no beating around the bush. It's different. It's different to pre-COVID. It's different to COVID. And it's probably different right now to the last few years. It's really unknown. So you can't stand still. I don't think as a business we're in the position to do anything overly drastic and crazy and maybe leaning on silly. But at the same time, we're making investments here. Boston, again, is fairly new. Even our contracts division, it's on the newer end. So to have been as stable, as profitable, and have the track record that we've got, but still have these different revenue streams, identities, people in the business, I think is what makes for such an exciting 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, nice. What are you most excited about? Of course, myself and some of the other guys will be up in London a fair bit, so you get to go to lunch with us. But other than that, what are you most excited about in terms of building something from scratch, building something new?
The honest answer is the unknown. That's the coolest thing. I'm so confident in my own ability, what I've been able to achieve throughout my career, how I've done it, different businesses I've worked within, the different environments, the different team types, whether it be large scale, whether it be small scale, whether it be driven into really specific markets, maybe earlier on in my career, or then oversight of multiple verticals. And then my confidence in you guys and the business, from the owners all the way into the individuals that are highly performing out their skin right now and have been for a long time. I think it's really easy at the moment to promote how well the business is doing or how well the business is stabilized, but you're not new. Apsida are 6 years old. Again, I can't compare us to the legacy guys, but at the same time, this has been going on for a while and you're still here, still growing, still making moves. So having that confidence in what I've seen, what I've done, what you guys have done and how you've done it, that unknown of what London will look like, but not just London, Apsida, but what London can add to Apsida. And that's going to come down to service offerings, client types. I really am a huge believer in collaboration. And I think as we scale, London's going to be heavily weighted upon business development, which is of course going to be influential here, but I believe that is going to filter into both Boston and Surrey as well.
Definitely.
Which I think is really exciting, because we're going to be able to give other recruiters access to roles that they might not have seen before. They're going to be heavily qualified because they're vertically led. And I think with someone like myself and the team that I'll build here, being able to introduce them more into the client type, not the role type. And I hope it comes from the other way as well. I think as the business grows and we learn more about the industry, because we've got to constantly be learning, it's going to come the other way as well. Whether it be Europe to US, Surrey to London, Surrey to the US, whatever it might be, I think that cross collaboration, because we are in a time now that is going to see growth.
Yeah.
Versus everyone, I think, being a little bit more sheltered, probably a little bit more selfish, which is what we've had to do.
Yeah.
I think I'm really excited to not know exactly who that hire is going to be, who's number one, who's number two, who's number three, who's number four and beyond, and exactly where the wins are going to come from. I think I'd be lying if I sat here and said, I can lay out an exact business plan of what 2025 is going to look like, especially in pharma biotech. With the amount of acquisitions, mergers that go on, products that come to life that happen quicker, products that are delayed, products that fail, it's very hard to predict.
Yeah.
What we can predict is that Apsida have a plan and that we have the track record to prove it, and I do as well. And I think that's what's most exciting, because everything that we do is going to be really, really visible. It's not just going to fall into being a cog or it being one of 100 times that happened, if not more. It's going to be first, it's going to be record breaking, it's going to be different. And that's really energizing for me and new hires here and the wider business, and for you guys.
I think it's quite a good time to jump in there. It's touched on what you just said in terms of the collaborative environment. You are, from my personal experience, you are a leader in its finest form, the true sense of the word. And I know you don't like talking about yourself too much, but you're going to have to. How do your experience, you've got over a decade's experience in not just recruiting, but leading recruitment teams, building, managing recruitment teams. What is it that you do that creates that environment of collaboration? Like, how do you create that? Because it's so key, as you just said.
Yeah.
And it's been a big reason as to, I think, why Apsida has been successful is the environment that we've created is extremely collaborative. People enjoy, I'd like to think people enjoy working with each other in our business. So, and I know from my experience in working with you and speaking with you that that's definitely always been at the forefront of how you manage your teams and how you set up your team. So what is it that you do that creates that? How do you create that?
I think it's probably one of those habits or behaviors that you're possibly born with. I do. I think going into probably teenage years and my background, having played a reasonably high level sport and having been captain for quite a few of those teams, that's probably how it started, understanding how people tick, how to get the best out of individuals, even from a young age. You're not necessarily trained in that, but I guess some people just understand how to get the best out of individuals when certain leadership techniques are needed. I then did a degree in sports coaching, so a lot about that was how to influence, how to communicate, working with so many different types of individuals, from professional sports teams to managing or overseeing different teams of genders, disabilities, ages. So it naturally just teaches you how to communicate in different ways, and how to get the best out of the group that you have with you. I then started my career with a really recognised and great business, and fortunately got the opportunity to manage quite young and quite early, and build a group there. So built a group at, I think I was about 20, 22, 23, and grew a team on my own to, I think at its height was maybe 9. Wild experience, and really grateful for that experience. And it was extremely diverse in the different ages, genders, backgrounds that people came from, and what they wanted out of their careers at that point. And then I moved to London when I was 24, and again it was a reasonably scratch build. It was a market that business hadn't done before, and it was again, go and get some hires, and let's make that team tick. That was done well, got that group ticking, moving forward, profitable. And then I think opportunities just came from there. The business I worked with grew incredibly well, and I was able to grow with it, managing more teams, more senior people that were then scaling at that point. And then suddenly, fast forward, you're, 28, 29, overseeing quite large recruitment groups. But at the forefront of it, it's, to your question, how do I do it? I'd like to think I'm relatable, reasonably worldly. So I feel like I could have a conversation with almost anyone and have something in common and have a genuine interest. I like to listen. I like to give an opinion and give a perspective. And I think that's valued quite a lot when people feel wanted, they feel like they're recognized. But the heart of it, if we keep it on that professional standpoint, the joy of sales and recruitment is there is an extremely common goal and a clear goal, which is essentially the target that you've got, whether that be small KPI driven targets or that all encompassing yearly number that you need to reach and everything in between. You can always revert back to that. Sometimes people want a positive kick in a good way. We all need it. Sometimes they need the arm, whatever it might be. Sure. Spotting it at the right time. We all make mistakes. I'm sure there's times, and maybe people listening to this, where I've missed it or gone too early on the other one. But overall, I think I'm pretty strong at reading individuals and what's required and what they need. We've always had these types of conversations. I've been with the business for 7-8 weeks, but we've had these types of chats about strategies and what to do and how to do things for the last 10 years.
And I think, and we can already see it, there is really good debate. We challenge each other. You definitely challenge us on those strategies, and that's exactly for all the reasons that you mentioned, and what you're bringing to the table. But it's also that diversity and cognitive thinking. We have different perspectives due to the different walks of life that we've been down. I think getting that into one room has set us up really, really well to scale as we're planning to do so now. That's awesome. Thanks for that. So I think we're talking about building an environment, building a collaborative culture, and I think that's, as we move into 2025, it's going to be the start of that, in particular in London, you building that. So for any, I guess, recruiters that are watching this now, or maybe you haven't worked in recruitment before and you're looking to get into it, what do you plan on the London office looking like, and why should someone be excited to potentially be involved in what we're creating here?
It's the golden question, isn't it? For sure, and something that I think about probably most days and most nights. we want, and I want to be able to create a platform for strong-willed, confident, and knowledgeable recruiters who want to be part, just like me, of a fairly blended type of business. We're not super insiders, lots of affiliates, lots of layering, and we're certainly not a startup and staying super lean. We are in the middle somewhere, which actually feels quite unique right now, to be honest. I feel like there are a lot of businesses who are going through hyper growth in terms of headcount, and a lot, especially recently, that are really experienced individuals that want to stay lean and I guess stay doing what they know. We are in the middle somewhere. We want to do what we know. I want to create a platform of recruitment techniques and understandings that we know and I know, but at the same time, we want to be taught. So I want people to come with me with ideas. People who are either at smaller businesses who feel like that there is no progression, or whether it be incentive driven or reward driven, who want something a little bit larger but don't want to go maybe big corporate. Or if you are a little bit more big corporate, cog kind of mentality, and you've got these bright ideas, whether it be geographically, whether it be market related, whether it be the style of recruitment that you've got, the way that you want to approach clients. We are lean enough, and London is completely lean. It's just me in reality. I want to hear these ideas. So I want someone that will feel entrepreneurial, but without the baggage that you guys went through in 2018 of administrative setup and an extreme amount of pressure. So I feel like if anyone's out there who have seen people doing certain markets and they've done really well, interacted with certain types of clients that they don't have access to, maybe limited by geography, which can be frequent in big organizations, and they're like, I really want to try something, but I want to do it as part of something stable with someone, I guess, i.e. me in this situation, that's probably seen it done before. That's the type of recruiter that we want to have in London. We're not going to be the bread and butter here. We're going to be probably slightly more the flair players. We're going to be the number 10. We're going to be the number 8 in the football team. We're going to be trying to give the industry something a little bit different, because what we don't have surrounding us is the L&D. We don't have you here. We don't have Charlotte here running the podcast today. You will be here once a week, twice a week, whatever it might be. But I need someone who can come and sit in front of their laptop and think, I know how what I want to achieve. I pretty much know how I'm going to get there, but I just need the support of a business, the safety of being in an established business, the tech support, the administrative support, the track record, the proof of concept behind you. Again, I think it's an interesting blend. There's not many businesses of our size that have 3 offices. So for me to be running one of those, I think is an exceptional proposition for certain recruiters out there. I really do. Do you agree?
100%, definitely. And I think what I was thinking about when you were talking there was, you're not talking about the most important bit, which is the what London's got to offer outside of this office. And I think, like, one of my earliest memories of you, if I cast my mind back the 10 plus years or so I've known you, is just whatever corner of London we're in, you don't even need to look at your phone. You know exactly where to go or what to do. So outside of the office, outside of all the great stuff that you just spoken about, what else excites you about that? Because you're going to be, again, like my experience of being up here, really, because there was before I met you, I didn't really know too much about what was going on up here. So talk a little bit about that. What excites you about that part of it?
Yeah, well, I always knew I wanted to work in London. So I moved there when I was 24, and I couldn't imagine working in a high intensity sales environment that wasn't in the, I guess, the hustle and bustle of London. That might change one day in the future, I don't know. But just something as simple as getting off the tube or the train in the morning and just being surrounded by individuals that you know are coming to work. It's busy, everyone's got a job to do. And then obviously there are an incredible amount of social activities, especially these days. I think everyone's pretty much a foodie these days, and like the options that you can have, whether it be a little lunch or a bite to eat, or taking clients out, taking candidates, or just going out with your friends, meeting up with them. London can be quite frightening to people that aren't in here. So I guess that's more based at individuals that are looking at coming to London. I understand it, it can be quite a daunting city because it is so vast. But once you're up here to understand like what it has to offer and how to navigate it, like it truly is one of the best cities in the world. We as humans want to go on holiday, or do go on holiday all the time to see these amazing cities, whether it be Europe or further afield, when for so many people there's probably a 1 hour connection to get into one of the greatest cities in the world for anything. What anyone wants to do outside of working hours, and to a degree inside of working hours, whether it comes to incentives, days off, whatever it might be, it's just so much here. It's just like what got to be the place to be. I know you love coming up here.
Yeah. And I think that's, for me, is one of the reasons why we're so excited to finally launch.
Yep.
And finally be here, because it truly is just an incredible city, isn't it? And for us to build our own brand within it is, I think, such a great opportunity.
And obviously when we first spoke about how this was going to work, it's also the options. Not everyone does want to work in London. Some people will want to live locally and commute. Some people like me will want to move to London. And there are others that don't want anything to do with London. The commute, the hustle, which I've mentioned is a positive for me, might not be for everyone. They might want a way more, I guess, simpler life, easier life. And then when they go to the office, they're able just to crack on. We can offer that as well. You know, I am very jealous sometimes of you, Ben, Jamie, and the rest of the group that probably live within, or you, 3 minutes of the office, most within probably half an hour of the office.
Got bed under
there are pros
the
and
table,
cons to it all. And I think for Apsida now, to give people both options, for someone to move to London, for someone to go, no, I've had enough of that, I'm actually going to move out, we've got that offering as well. Oh, and if you did want to relocate to Boston, by the way, we can do that as well. For a business of this size, to have all of that, obviously, yeah, I'm Team London. Everyone come and join me.
Mr. London,
yeah,
as we say.
Yeah.
Really excited to have you on board. Really excited for the plans that you just set out there. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Well, I think it's my first podcast, as you guys might recognize after watching this, and I think it's been really fascinating to go from where we all started, specifically me, you, Jamie, and Ben in 2014, to sitting here like in London doing a podcast. I think it's really cool. Really, really positive for this platform that we're doing. I think we're modernizing as individuals, as leaders, but also as a business. And I guess, yeah, long may the excitement continue. I think it's going to be a cool journey.
Good man.
So cheers, mate.
Appreciate it.
Thanks very much.